Hey guys, what's up? We're back. This is Coffee and Jam with Krizz, and with me is
Joel Yo, your friendly music educator, musician, and producer.
Yes, as you guys know, like a few weeks before this, we were on a thread of doing reaction videos at his channel. So if you guys want to have a look at that, do check his channel out, Joel Yo, in the description below. Look at that link, click on that link, and don't forget to subscribe. Anyway, we're on another thread today, well, because we're stuck because of the SOPs that we needed to follow.
Right.
And it's called MCO here in Malaysia.
Movement
So basically,
Control Order.
MCO 3.0, the third round, the third wave, and we really miss traveling. And because we miss traveling, we were looking on videos that we can react to. And we came across this video, and it's about Iran. And a lot of our co-reactors are actually reacting to that. So I am excited. You know that I'm kind of like into the history of Iran and language and the music.
You can
know
speak
that.
quite, a decent amount of Farsi, right?
A little bit. Kuchulu. I think Kuchulu means small. So salam to all our friends.
Salam.
Khubi, Shatori, Shekhabar. Merci for coming to my channel. Anyway, so we're gonna be reacting to Geography Now Iran. I don't know what to expect. Is it a documentary? Is it an informative video? Let's check it out,
Quite a
shall
lengthy
we?
video as well, right?
It's
40
quite a
minutes.
lengthy. It's 40 minutes, but I'm sure it's gonna be worth it. So let's do
check it out.
this in Yek, Do, Se, Play.
Do not call most of these people Arabs.
Yeah, you shouldn't call them that. Definitely
Everybody,
not.
I'm your host, Barbie. Okay, let me
Barbie.
break this down so you can quickly get the distinction.
Okay.
You've heard of Persia, right? The Persian
Yes.
Empire, Persian rugs, Persian cats, the Prince of Persia. Which, by the way, Disney got incredibly accurate.
Yeah.
Yes, Persia is pretty much synonymous with Iran. Now, not everyone in Iran is Persian, but it's a huge part of their story, which we will begin discussing now.
This is so interesting already.
Okay, let's be frank. Iran seems to get their fair share of the news quite often in the Western media. However, conflict issues aside, Iran has a deep history and story in the Middle East that extends
they do.
millennia in the
So
past that would probably be
interesting.
wise to educate yourself on. First of all, Iran is located in Western Asia, bordered by 7 other countries, as well as the Caspian Sea to the north, the Persian Gulf, and the Gulf of Oman to the south, divided by the Strait of Hormuz, which is like one of the most important sea passages in the world. Hey! It's Arabian Gulf. And most people
The
have called it
argument
Gulf, and
between
it's been that way for
Arabian and
centuries.
Persian
Plus, Arabs
Gulf.
have their own sea.
Yeah, I'm
Just
sure.
let them have it.
It's an ongoing argument. Right?
This is so on point.
Located in the North
Tehran.
Central region. Now keep in mind, before
That's right.
Tehran, Iran actually had 30 previous capitals throughout their history, more than any other country in the world. Otherwise, Iran also divides the country into 5 non-constituent unit regions for administrative purposes, each one containing 6 provinces, except for one region containing 7, which also includes the capital.
This is so
Finally, although they
educational.
are administered by Iran, the country also
I
has
wonder
borders
why
between
everyone
the
is also
Abu
watching
Musa
this
and the
video.
Greater and Lesser Tum Islands with the United Arab Emirates nearby the Strait of Hormuz. in
It's
the
like
Persian
so
Gulf.
next to each
After
other.
Tehran, the largest cities are Mashhad in the east and Isfahan in the center.
Isfahan.
The largest airports are, of course, Tehran's 2 twins, Mehrabad and Iman Khomeini International,
Khomeini.
Mashhad International, and Shiraz.
Great pronunciation.
Iran also
Shiraz.
takes ownership of about
Shiraz
3
wine.
islands in the Gulf and technically 1 island in the Caspian Sea, Ashur Ade Island, which, however, it's kind of more like a loose peninsula. One thing you have to understand is that Iran takes their position and borders very seriously, as they are kind of like a land bridge located right at the crossroads between the Middle East, the Caucasus, as well as the Central and South Asian regions. The most important and largest seaport would be Bandar Abbas, which also houses the Iranian Navy, located right at the entrance at the Strait of Hormuz. Otherwise, due to its incredible history, Iran is overflowing with landmarks and sites. Some of the top notable
My
ones
Iranian
include
friends would
places
say
like Naqsh
Iran,
Square,
not
Milad
Iran.
Tower,
Yes,
Golestan
it's
Palace,
Iran.
Persian
It's actually
Garden,
Iran,
the
right?
Armenian monastic ensembles of Iran, the tomb of Hafez, the Yazadi
Oh,
Tower,
I've been
Freedom
wanting to
Monument,
see
the
that.
Pigeon Tower,
Oh.
Yazd, the holiest place for Zoroastrians, Chogazanbil Ziggurat, the Mayamand Cave Village, the Imam
Oh,
Reza
interesting.
Shrine, the Khaju Bridge,
These are all
Argeban, the
historical
Shushtar hydraulic
places.
system, the tomb of Cyrus the Great, the tomb of Daniel. Too many famous mosques and shrines to list, and pretty much everything in Persepolis. Iran
Yes,
was able to build so
Persepolis.
much of their own personal space,
Ah,
partially due
I've
to
been
the
wanting
fact that
to
they were
see
easily
those
well protected by
artifacts.
natural boundaries or barricaded in.
So
You
beautiful.
decide. Let's explain in.
Alright, Give us
You know
more.
what's funny? The world's hottest surface temperature ever recorded was 70.7 degrees Celsius in the Lut Desert in Iran, and yet Iran is also like the best ski resort area.
Yeah,
in the
they
Middle
have
East. First of all,
snow.
Iran's most
Dizin.
important topographical
It's
feature
not
is
cool.
the
Is
Southern
it
Mountains
Dizin?
in
I'm
the
right.
west, which
Comment
also
down
contain the
below.
largest lake, Urmia, and the mountains also feed the longest
Quite a
river, the
big
Karun, in
extreme
the south, which flows into the
Yeah.
Gulf, as well as the
contrasting
Alborz Mountains
temperature.
along the north, which
Yeah.
contain the largest mountain, Mount Damavand, which is also the tallest
It's very
volcano in all of
interesting. They
Asia.
actually
Like,
have
it's
4
still
seasons,
active. There's
and
so
not
much mining
everyone knows
potential in these
that.
mountains as well, which
But
makes
not
Iran the
throughout
largest producer of
Iran,
turquoise
right?
and
Yeah.
Probably
tungsten.
not-
Otherwise, they have
not
2
part of
main
Iran.
deserts, the Kavir and Lut, located in the central plateau. And the only real flat part of Iran is in the Khuzestan region right next to Iraq. Iran is right on the boundary of the Arabian and Eurasian tectonic plates, which in return makes Iran the country with the most number of major earthquakes of at
Wow,
least
I didn't
5.5
know
on the Richter
that.
scale annually.
Mine are bigger.
Yeah, well, mine are explodier. Now, Iran is kind of like
What?
this strange anomaly that sticks out from the rest of the Middle East
Look at
because
that.
it has alpine mountains with
Yes,
flowers and
yes.
snow and water
Not
and
to
green, especially in the
mention
north along the coast of the
saffron.
Caspian. I mean, sure, there are dry, arid
Saffron.
deserts too, but overall, Iran is a
Saffron.
lot more lush. This allows them to harbor river valleys for agriculture, which makes them the #1 producer of pistachios, saffron,
Yeah.
stone
Oh
fruits.
my
By the
God.
way,
Saffron,
Iranians
yeah,
love
look at-
saffron. They put it in like half.
Yes.
everything. Speaking of which, some top foods from Iran might include things like
Goji
pomegranate
sabs.
walnut
No
stew,
goji
kuku,
sabs.
Mirza Kasemi, various rice dishes
Gomi
like
sabzi.
jeweled rice, bakala, lubia, shirin, various kebabs like
Oh.
juje, bide,
Bide.
torsh, bakgari,
Oh.
desserts
Now
like
I'm hungry.
rosewater pudding, khalva, sarshir,
Where's
rami,
Garmi's
mochi,
absi?
and falude. By the way, half
Come
those
on.
dishes
Yes,
have saffron
yes.
in them. Alcohol is
Almost
typically
everything
banned,
has
however, people kind
saffron.
of smuggle it in and have their connections. Even the cops are kind of getting tired of trying to crack down, and many just look the other way and deal with other bigger things. 2 other things
Yeah.
Iran cannot live without: tea and caviar.
Oh,
In fact,
yeah.
Iran is the largest
That's right.
producer of
Yeah, oh
caviar
my
in the world,
goodness.
mostly from sturgeons fished off the coast of the Caspian. Speaking of which, Iran surprisingly has quite an array of wildlife, including gazelles, wolves, falcons, storks, buzzards, and of course the famous Persian cat.
Yeah,
Speaking
Persian
of
cat.
cats, Iran is home to
So
some of
fluffy.
the last
So
only
cute.
few remaining
A
surviving
pishi.
Persian lions,
Iranians
national
call
animal, Persian
cats
leopards,
pishi.
and yes, even Asiatic cheetahs.
Wait,
See
aren't
this?
those like African animals?
Actually, a lot of animals we affiliate with Africa had historically roamed all across the Middle East and Southern Asian regions.
interesting.
Oh wow,
Besides
even the
India,
animals
rhinos in
traveled and
Indonesia. Unfortunately, most of
migrated.
them have been
Traveled
killed off
to
or
Iran.
incredibly endangered.
They migrated,
More
guys.
you, unfortunately. No! The biggest natural resource, though, would have to be, no surprise, oil. Iran
Yeah,
is the second largest oil
yes,
producer in
Middle East, right?
definitely.
Saudi Arabia, and about 60%
Rich in
of their
oil.
total reserves
Yes.
are located around the Persian Gulf. It's estimated that the country should have about 125 billion barrels in reservoirs, 10% of the
Wow.
world's total reserves. and they
So
provide about
rich,
4
you
million
know,
barrels a
Iran's
day. That's a
natural
lot. So all the
resources.
geographic isolation, but
Wow.
abundance of resources, you might wonder,
Football.
what is life like in Iran? Well, I'm so glad you asked.
Oh, his channel is so interesting. I wonder if he has anything about Philippines. Oh, I didn't know that.
Shias in the world. About 62% of the country is ethnically Persian, whereas the second largest ethnic groups are the Azeris at about 16%, Kurds at
Azerbaijans.
10%, while the remainder is made up of smaller but noticeable groups like the Lurs, the Baluchis, Arabs, Turkic groups, and others. They also use the Iranian
What about the
rial as their currency.
Armenian
They use the type
mix?
CEF outlets, and they drive on the right side of the road. Now
Yeah.
let's emphasize this one more time. Persians are not Arabs.
Get it
That's like the
right,
worst thing
people.
you can do.
My
First of
friends
all,
have
what
always
is it like
shared
to
to
be
me
a
about
Persian?
this
Well, you kind of have to
fact.
understand
This is
that
very
Iran
important,
evolved
right?
a lot
Yes, it's
differently
very
from all the other
cannot
totally
mix them
different,
up.
guys.
History
Don't
will
mix
take
them
way
up.
too long to
Respect.
explain, but the quickest way I can put it: Proto-Elamites, Elam, Median Empire, Persian or Achaemenid Empire, Alexander the Great, the Seleucid, Parthian, and Sassanid empires. Islam enters through the Umayyad Caliphate, the Abbasid Caliphate.
I won't
Safavids and
remember all
Safavids
this.
come in from the east. Then some weird splitting up. The Ghaznavid, Seljuk, and Khwarezmian empires. Mongols. The
Whoa.
Khanate, Timurid, Safavid, and Afsharid empires. The Zand and Qajar dynasties. Quick Pahlavi dynasty. Islamic Republic. A little drama here and there. And here we are today. Now the biggest
Little
distinction
drama
of
here and
Iran
there.
would probably be the
That's a quick one.
language. The official language
This
of
is
Iran
so
is
interesting.
Persian or Farsi,
Farsi.
an Indo-European language also spoken in Afghanistan and Tajikistan, although they have their own dialects, which is completely unintelligible to Arabic. The second largest distinction would be that they are the largest Shia Muslim country in the world with doctrines that run their ideologies and legislation. If you don't know the difference between Sunnis and Shias, basically Shias believe that Muhammad's cousin and son-in-law Ali was supposed to be the rightful successor rather than Abu Bakr, who became the first caliph. If you don't know what any
Wow.
of that means, let me make it even easier.
That makes sense a
Shias
lot.
this guy. Sunnis, no, this guy. Done. The interesting thing, though, is that Persians still hold on to a lot of ancient Persian
Yeah,
customs and
the
traditions that
beautiful
predate
traditional
even Islam.
dresses.
For example, for over 3,000 years,
Nowruz,
Persians
Eid
and
al-Shama
Muslim-related people
Mubarak,
across
or
the world
Eid
still celebrate
al-Mubarak.
Nowruz, or Persian New Year, usually on March
Yes.
21st, or the vernal equinox, a mostly secular holiday.
Alright.
However, it actually has roots and is considered holy
Just a
to
few months
Zoroastrians.
back.
Zoroastrianism
Yes.
actually started in Iran and at one point was actually the state religion. Persians
Yes.
also have their own distinct art, which usually depicts human figures more
Oh, I
often than
missed
other
all
Sunni
this.
cultures. They have their own
Like-
traditions, clothing,
Wow.
music, opera, poetry,
Yes,
sports. I mean, polo was
music
invented
and
here. They have that
poetry,
ancient
big thing.
warrior training thing. They have
Hafiz,
handicrafts.
right?
I mean, everybody knows that
Hafiz
Persian rugs are like
poetry.
some of the most sought after in the world.
Yep,
But remember,
Persian
not
rugs.
all Iranians are Persians, and some of these groups have expressed separatist movement desires in the past, but with pretty much no actual success. The second largest group, the Turkic Azeris or Azerbaijanis, mostly live in the northwest along the borders of
Ah.
Turkey and the Caucasus region.
Yeah, I think
where
I
their
remember
cousins,
my
the
friend
actual
telling me about
Azerbaijanis
this.
in Azerbaijan live. They are basically the same people except
Well,
one
the
group
ones in
speaks
the north
Farsi.
probably
Although
will have
exact
4
numbers are kind of
seasons,
hard
right?
to estimate
Yes.
today, there are about twice as many to 3 times more Azeris living in Iran than there are in Azerbaijan. Then you have the Kurds that live along the west as well, and then you have the Arabs that mostly inhabit the flat Khuzestan areas by Iraq. You have the Baluchi people in the southwest along the border with Pakistan. Each of these people groups has their own language, culture, and history. Oh, and keep in mind, Persia is mentioned numerous times in the Bible. Iranian Jews believe that they are descended from Queen Esther, and they, as well as Christians, believe that King Cyrus was prophesied in the book of Isaiah. Speaking of which, although the vast majority of the population is Shia Muslim, there are communities of non-Muslims, mostly Christians and Jews.
Yes.
However, outside religions are strictly
People need
monitored
to
and
know
confined to
this.
only a few
Yeah.
places of
It's like
worship,
this
as
part
it is
of the
illegal to
history
build
was
churches
like
People will make
hidden.
assumptions.
Selling of
right?
literature is
Yes.
illegal, and apostasy from a Muslim is punishable, which is funny because
Yeah.
just like in China, Iran has one of the fastest growing underground Christian communities in the
Yeah.
world, and disputedly the most in the Middle East. So
That's
how does Iran
true.
hold all these people together? Well, in order to speed up the Persian assimilation process, other languages are banned from schools, and they have a system in which cooperation is rewarded and resistance is punished by the IRGC.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, join us, and the rewards shall be bountiful.
I have my own thing going on, but thanks.
Join us, and the rewards shall be bountiful. Speaking
God,
of which, the
it must
government
be
is a
so
little
hard.
confusing. You have
Wow.
both the regular legislators, and then you have the theocratic leaders. Essentially, the Ayatollah has the most power. He is not only the leader of the country, but also the entire Shia community inside and outside of Iran. He's selected by a community of clerics called the Assembly of Experts, whom also have authority to approve all of the presidential candidates during election time. From there, the president appoints people to the various ministries and offices, whereas the Ayatollah appoints the military leader and handles all other various duties. I don't want to say the Ayatollah is like the Pope of the Shia faith, but in some ways he kind of is. This is kind of where the Islamic Revolution comes into play and where all the modern drama with Iran kind of starts. Long story
Yeah.
short, they took down the Shah, which they believed was a Western
Oh,
puppet figure,
their
and then they
king.
instituted a more conservative Islamic republic. This changed everything. The thing is, this was all nearly half a century
The
ago.
Shah of
Today, an
Iran,
entirely
they
new
called
generation of modernized, digital, tech-savvy
And his
Iranians has
family.
entered the
They
stage,
were
and
really
the country
loved.
is seeing a completely new culture shift that they can't stop.
Yeah.
About 70% of the country is under 30 years old, many of whom don't really
Wow.
even like the rules, which means
It's
you
a
have a
young
lot of
generation.
intrepid
Yeah.
youths running the show now.
Mostly
Even
young
the police
people.
are getting way more lenient because the police are getting younger too. Everyone in Iran is now kind of trying to find like loopholes and subtle cheats to avoid the religiously
Yeah.
imposed laws. Although the hijab is required
I
for
wonder
all
how
women
my
in public,
Iranian
most
friends
women
are
just
reacting to
loosely
this
wear
video
it,
if they
exposing
watch
their
this
necks
and the
and
way
breasts.
he
That's why-
talks
Almost
about
as if it's like a
them.
fashion
That's the
accessory
reason why
rather
we
than a
have a
religious
lot of
article.
Iranian friends
Skateboarding,
here.
Yes,
punk
we
rock, and
even-
metal
even
culture
in
has
our
already
church,
penetrated
we
men,
have
even women.
few.
Although it's interesting because it's like Persian punk rock and metal. People
Wow,
meet at
okay.
underground clubs and parties all the time, wearing whatever they want with open bars and music. If you catch them in their element, Persians are actually seriously like some of the most fun people you'll
Yes,
ever meet.
they
And the
are,
crazy thing is
and
everybody
really the
knows about
most
this. It's nothing
hospitable
shockingly
too.
new to
Like,
the police
Yep.
or government. It gives
super
them a little bit of a
hospitable.
headache, but after half a century, it's kind of like, dude, whatever. Yeah, you didn't really expect that, did you? Persian punk rock rebels with hijabs and
Wow.
skateboards, right? And
Interesting.
that's what goes
Wow.
on in the inside. Now let's see how they reach out. Now here's where things get a little tricky because in order to understand Iran's outside relations, again, you kind of have to look at Iran through the lens of both pre- and post-1979 revolution. First of all, Iraq is sometimes called Arab Iran, although don't say that to them, as they have the second highest population of Shias and hold 2 incredibly important holy Shia sites. They've mostly moved on from the war in the 80s, and the two have good ties, mostly. Afghanistan and Tajikistan are like their cousins that have different political views, and it's awkward when they have dinner together, but nonetheless, they still mostly get along.
That's
Russia and
cute.
Venezuela are probably the best friends
So it's a cute
outside of the Middle
illustration.
East, as Hugo Chavez frequently visited Ahmadinejad and made numerous trade deals. The Iranian car company Khodro is imported and partially manufactured in Venezuela, and Russia
Interesting.
was like a key ally in many of the war conflicts post-revolution. Surprisingly, they are also one of the few countries that have kind of decent ties to North Korea. They've pledged cooperation in education and cultural spheres in the past. The Azerbaijanis of the north, of course, love Azerbaijan, no surprise. Bahrain is like Saudi Arabia's girlfriend that they keep trying to flirt with and steal. When it comes to their best friends, though, most Iranians I talked to have said probably Syria and Turkey, although it's a little complicated, especially with all the current drama going on. Turkey and Iran have more or less always been on good terms, especially in business. They are working on a plan to enter the European petroleum
Rich in
industry
oil,
to
right?
rival Russia. Each country makes up a large population of tourists that visit each other every year. Syria, or more specifically the Syrian government, has more or less worked alongside with Iran numerous times in the past and has been a key ally not only in diplomacy but also strategically, as they kind of give them access to the Mediterranean. In conclusion, Iran is kind of like a land that is constantly trying to figure out a way to reconcile the revolutionary ideals upon a fast-paced social media-induced generation of quiet culture rebels while simultaneously dealing with outside stigma. What will Iran look like in 20 years? I don't know, but one thing we do know is that the young people will be ruling it. Stay tuned.
Yeah.
Iraq is coming up next.
Wow,
Oh,
this
interesting.
is so eye-opening. I really enjoy this informative
Very informational.
yeah, I mean, for me, I know a little bit of background of Iran and before the revolution and studying. It even came to a point of their early architecture. I was interested in that. They figured out a way that the water system could produce power. Yeah,
Oh,
it
so
started
from them?
Yes, it
I
started
see.
from them. Architecture.
The hydraulic system?
Yes, they did have a huge influence on that part. I mean, that's not the topic now, but I mean, what is it like for you to be exposed to? You have Iranian friends too,
I don't
apart
know,
from the
I
food.
don't know much about Iran, to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know a lot more. You have a lot more Iranian friends.
Yeah, I
from the
did
childhood,
have.
right?
Yeah, no, from early in my high school up to I was a young adult and early 20s. So I did have a friend, like I mentioned in one of my video. Her name is
Close Iranian
Yagane.
friends.
And of course, being involved with a lot of Iranian friends and their culture and their custom. When they get together, they actually talk about how Iran is and the reasons why they exited Iran. So based on this video, most of the facts are true. They're very
Makes sense,
true.
right, in the video.
And in fact, Iranians are really one of the most hospitable, respectable, and very, very accommodating people that I know. Like our friends, right? Who's also married to a Malaysian right now.
right.
She's super
Very hospitable.
hospitable, super smart, and they're very super talented music wise. We would talk about Hafiz poetry with
That's
with our friend, and we would share music. I have this
And they
favorite
always serve
song
us tea.
by
coffee.
Sarah Naini. It's Esharate Nazar. If you guys know this song, Esharate Nazar by Sarah Naini. It's my super favorite song from Iran. It's super deep, and it's poetic and stuff. But wow, yeah, there's so many more information that we need to find out about Iran. It's so
Interesting
interesting.
video.
They have 4 seasons. They have all the history. They're crazy about saffron and caviar. We know that. And they're crazy about lava shek. Lava shek is that sour plumish candy that we try from our friend's house.
Okay.
It's like a sheet of...
Yeah, I remember trying
Oh,
that.
it's super good and super addicting.
It's not
Yeah.
common to find it here.
It's like our local, the plum slice. We have a name for that as well.
Yeah.
But later. Anyway, we're so happy to learn more about Iran today. And yeah, thank
Thanks
you
for
to
the
all our
informative
co-reactors
video.
for reacting to this. Then it's going really viral. So if you guys haven't watched this yet, check this out. I will include the link down below
That's
the
right, check this
description.
video out.
And yeah, why not get educated more about Iran? Yeah. So do you know how to say thank you in Iranian?
No, teach me.
It's merci. It's like
Oh, Messi.
French.
Okay. Like
Merci
French.
or
Merci.
Khayli Mamnoon. Khayli Mamnoon.
Khayli Mamoun.
Mamnoon.
Mamnoon.
Yeah.
Khayli
Khayli Mamnoon for watching.
Merci.
And the most one is gonna be with you is Khoda Hafiz.
Khoda Hafiz.
Yeah,
I
but
remember
people
that.
kind of slang it and say Khoda
Khoda
Hafiz.
Hafiz. Khoda Hafiz.
Khoda Hafiz. Yeah, so thank you so much guys for watching. I hope you enjoy this. And we will be reacting to hopefully more of Iranian culture and music. I am a fan of Iranian music. And leave some suggestions down below.
Let us know.
Yeah, so khayli mamnoon for watching, and know that we love you guys. Thank you so much. How to say what do you call this? I love you in Iran.
No idea.
Asher Ghatam. I hope I said it right. I have the slang. Asher Ghatam. Asher Ghatam. Yeah. So anyway, that's it for now. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up and to subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. If you want to know more about my journey and finding more about Iran, along with my hubby here, Joel Yo, check out his channel down below. Subscribe. And we'll see you guys on the next reaction video. But that's it for now.
Bye.
Toodles. Khuda Hafiz.
Khoda Hafiz.